Hi, today is April 25th. Now this is a very beautiful Sunday morning. Now in this episode I need to wear my sunglasses because the sunlight is just too strong for my eyes. In today's episode, I'm going to share with parents who intend to send their children to Malaysia to attend international school 3 different topics which is very basic, very fundamental for parents to understand the basic international education system in Malaysia. Now these 3 things, the first one I will share with you is the education system in Malaysia, which include the government school and also the international school, and of course I will also include 2 different education systems in these regions. And the second topic I will share with parents is the various stream of international school, and it's a certificate which will be awarded upon your completion, upon your graduation from the international school. And lastly, the third topic that I will share with you is how certain most prestigious university or college in the world, how their admissions requirements are. These 3 topics will basically let the parents to understand the overall issue, the very basic or fundamental education system, especially in the international school, that parents need to know before you send your children to Malaysia to attend the international school. Before I start, please subscribe to my channel, click like and share the videos. If you have any questions, just leave me your message and I will reply to you as soon as I can. On the top right of the screen, there may appear some interesting topics that you may wish to watch further on. Okay, let's check out the different type of education system. Now, I have listed down 6 different education system here, with Malaysia and the British system, and then the other one is the IB and the Australian system, those from Hong Kong and China. Okay, now look at the age. Okay, now normally we start grade 1 or primary 1 at the age of 7 years old. Now, those before 7 years old, most of the time we call it kindergarten. Now, let's look at Malaysia. Okay, now before the years 7, okay, we generally group it as kindergarten. And then at the age of 7 is primary 1. Primary 2 at the age of 8, and so on. And then we have secondary school. Okay, now secondary school in Malaysia we studied for 5 years until Form 5. Now after Form 5 we have an exam called SPM. Okay, this is actually equivalent to IGCSE. Now, after Form 5, we have 2 years of Form 6. Now, not exactly 2 years, it is about 16 months, 16 to 17 months. So, it will have a lower 6 and upper 6. By the time you finish your STPM, or some students chose to attend A-Level, they will be 19 years old. Now let's look at the British system. Now this British system normally you can get it from the international school. Okay, those follow the British education system. Now in British system, year 6, okay, or sorry, not year 6, 6 years old. Look at that, 6 years old. It is considered primary 1. 7 years old, primary 2, and so on. And primary 5, it will consider you finish your primary school, and then you start secondary school at the age of 12. Okay, secondary, and up to 17 years old, you have to take an exam called IGCSE. Now, for those parents who chose British system, I believe you have heard of IGCSE. Okay, let's continue. Now, once you finish your IGCSE, you will have to study for another year in A-Level, which stands for advanced level. Now, when you finish your A-Level, you can go straight apply to various universities in the world. This is the British system. Now, let's jump to IB. Okay, the so-called International Baccalaureate Diploma Program, IB or IBDP. Okay, now let's use ISKL, International School of Kuala Lumpur, as an example. Okay, now before 6 years old, everything before 6 years old. Now, in British system, it is called nursery or receptions. Now, this is just a name change. They change it to pre-rep, pre-junior, okay, and then elementary. Okay, normally in British system, you call a primary. In the US, we call it elementary. Okay, you have grade 1 to 5, and then up to 11 years old, it is called middle school. Okay, you have grade 6, 7, and 8. It is a middle school. And then after that, at the age of 14, you attend high school, which is grade 9, and then 10, 11, 12. Now, after that, at the age of 18, you can either obtain your IB, International Baccalaureate, or the AAP, the Advanced Placement, depending on the children's. And then once you got your result, again, you can apply to any university in the world. Of course, if your result is good, you will be accepted to the most prestigious school in the world. Now, let's go to the Australian system. Now, this Australian system, at this point, it is only referred to New South Wales. Okay, HSC, which is stand for High School Certificate. Same with the British system or the American system. Now, at the age of 6, it is considered primary 1, and then you have primary 2 up to 5, and then you have a middle school, okay, middle, and it is the grade 6 to 8, and then you have a senior school from 9 to 11. Now, after that, you get your high school certificates at the age of 18. And once you got your high school certificate, which short form is called HSC, and then you can apply to attend any university in the world if your result is good. Now, let's go to Hong Kong. Now, very similar to the Malaysian education system. Okay, now primary 1, now start at the age of 7. Okay, you have primary 1 to primary 6, and then you have secondary school from the 13 to 17. After that, you have your form 6. Now, in Hong Kong, at the age of 18, you can get your HKDSE, which stands for Hong Kong Diploma of Secondary Education, or some students may choose to attend IB. So at the age of 18, now look at the difference between the Malaysian and the Hong Kong. In Malaysia, Form 6, we have 1.5 year or 1 year, 4 to 6 months. But in Hong Kong, they can graduate at the age of 18, not 19 as in Malaysia. Now let's look at the China education system. Now, very similar. Age before 7 years old, it is they call 幼儿园, and then from 小学, you have primary 1 to 6, and then you have your so-called junior secondary, 初中 1 to 3, and then you have your high school again from 1 to 3. Now, at the age of 18, you attend 高考, okay, which is very similar to A-Level, IB, HSC, SK, DSE, or the STPM in Malaysia. Now, these are only the primary or the mainstream education system in Malaysia. Of course, here I include Hong Kong and China for those parents who wanted to send their children to attend international school in Malaysia. Now, this is only for you to have an overall understanding. Of course, at the age of 18 or 19, you may have a choice to attend matriculations in certain university as well. I'm not including that in these sections. Now, let's compare the various international programs. Now, the first one is from Australia, from New South Wales, the higher school certificate. And then the second one, this in the middle, is the Cambridge A-Level. And then the last one is the IB, or sometimes we call it IBDP, International Baccalaureate Diploma Program. Okay, now let's see what the subject that you need to learn. Now, for the Australian HSC, English is a mandatory. Okay, different levels are available. Students need to choose English plus 5 other subjects. Now, let's look at the Cambridge A-Level. Now, there are no mandatory subjects, but students typically choose 3 A-Level subjects, or sometimes if the students think they are good enough, they can choose 4 subjects. Of course, that is upon the approval from your school. Now, let's look at IB. Now, students must choose 6 areas including the foreign language, art and science, plus theory of knowledge, extended essay and service components. Now, this is for the IB. Basically, it means you choose subject from 6 different areas. Now, let's look at the examinations, okay, how it is assessed. Now, in Australian system, now 50% of your works, of your result, is based on internal school assessment throughout the final year. And then another remaining 50%, it will be based on the external examinations at the end of the year. Now, let's look at the A-Level. Now, A-Level is pretty simple and straightforward. 100% external examination at the end of your program, at the end of the year. Now, the IB, the result is split into 20% and 80%. 20% internal school assessment throughout the final year. Okay, now the key words here is throughout the final year. So from the start of your IB, you need to pay attention to that, and 80% based on the external examinations. Now, these are how the 3 different type of international program are assessed. Right? Now, let's look at the grading. Now, temporarily we forget about the Australian system. Let's jump straight to A-Level. Now, A-Level, the grades are generally awarded on the basis of examinations performance, which benefits students who are good in exam condition. Now, this is very important for parents. Okay, now because A-Level is 100% based on external examinations, so if your children is good at study, okay, now this A-Level may be good for them. Now, let's look at the IB. Now, it is graded on a 45-point scale or a 45-point basis, and a minimum of 24 points is required for the award of diploma. Now, without the diploma, it means without 24 points as a minimum, it is difficult for the student to apply to the university. So now for IB, as the exam result is based on 20% internal school assessment throughout the year and 80% based on external examinations. Now if your children is good at activities, hands work, now there are 20% will be based on this. So it depends on your children if you need to choose A-Level or the IB, or if you send your children to Australian system, now it will be based on 50-50. Now let's look at the tertiary education. Now tertiary education in this case mean the university or college after your secondary or after your high school. Now those who study the Australian system, it is accepted worldwide, and the same case as Cambridge A-Level, it is accepted worldwide, and it is the same for the IBDP or in short we call it IB. It is also accepted worldwide. In the next sections, I will show you some very prestigious university in the world, how their admission, how their enrollment requirements. Now for those students who are very good in their examinations, now let's check about the admission requirement from Harvard University. Okay, now this is a very top university in the world. Let's see what they want before you can be admitted into the university. Now let's look at the application requirements. Now I have pre-selected this page. Now let's see. Okay, now one of the requirement, okay, now this is only a very basic, very minimum requirements from the school, from Harvard University or the Harvard College. Okay, now school report and teacher recommendation. Now let's see if they accept IB and or A-Level. Now this is the requirement. If you study the IB curriculums or the A-Level curriculums, now then we expect that your school will send predicted grades based on your current classwork and the result of any internal or mock exam. Now the mock exam basically it means the trial exam. In Malaysia what we call it trial exam. Now this is, look at this, now they accept IB, okay, and also they accept A-Level. Now for those parents, no worry about whether your children want to attend A-Level or IB. Basically it is the same, it is just difference in terms of system. Alright, now let's go on to another top university in the world. Let's see what is their admission requirements. Okay, let's check the UCLA admission requirement. Okay, now University of California at LA at Los Angeles. Now let's look at the admission requirement. Now this page it shows different countries, okay, their education system. Now let's look at the British system. Now okay, now the British system you will have to have IGCSE, okay, and of course this you need also your A-Level exam. Okay, now A-Level and the IGCSE, this is for the British system. Now they need this. Now in China, okay, now this is the requirement for China, for those students graduated from China. This is from the Hong Kong. Now let's look at the international school. Now this is very important, international school. Now there are some requirements for those students that attend international school if you want your children to be admitted into UCLA. The international school must be accredited by your country Ministry of Education or have US regional accreditations. Now this sentence basically it means you cannot simply attend any international school. Now that international school that you send your children to must be accredited either by US or your own country. Now this is a very important statement. Now if you take International Baccalaureate. Okay, now this is also a very basic requirement from you. Okay, now there are also different countries from Korea, Kuwait, Malaysia. Alright, now Malaysia, SPM, STPM. Okay, now New Zealand, Pakistan. Now their all requirements are listed in this page. Okay, look at the Hong Kong University or the University of Hong Kong. This is one of the most prestigious university in Asia. Now let's check out the admission requirements. Okay, let me turn to this page immediately. Now, for international students, international qualifications, now you can always change your locations. Now this is Malaysia. Now let's look at their admissions requirement. Now in Malaysia, you can use your A-Level, which is follow the British system, or you can use the IB diploma results, or you can use the Malaysian government's secondary school results, or the so-called STPM. Now this is very interesting, the last one. You can also use the Malaysian Independent Chinese Secondary School, or what we call it UEC 读中啊，这个是读中的学生，香港大学也是承认可以作为一个申请香港大学的一个基础成绩的基础。Now this is from Hong Kong, the University of Hong Kong. Okay, lastly, let's look at University of Oxford in the UK. Now this is the world very top university. Now let's check out the admission requirement. Okay, now let me turn to this page. Okay, now there are some requirements from this University of Oxford. Now from the UK, of course, you will follow the British system where you can use your A-Level to apply. Now for those who are not taking A-Level, now the IB, International Baccalaureate, is also accepted. Now a total score of 38, 39 or 40 points. Now that depending on the course, of course, some may require higher points. Now let's look at some other countries. Now this is from A. Okay, you have countries start with A: Afghanistan, Albania, Algeria, and all the way down. Now let's look at this. Let's look at Australia. Now we talk about HSC. Now this is the one, New South Wales Higher School Certificate. This is the one offered by AISM in Malaysia. Now this is, you can also use HSC to apply to University of Oxford. This is absolutely not a problem. But of course, everything depends on your results and also your interview with the university. Australia is a very tricky country. Now they offer different certificates depending on the state or on the territory you are staying. Now they have New South Wales. New South Wales offer their higher school certificate, which is the same as the AISM in Malaysia. Now and then they have their own Northern Territory Certificate of Education, which is special for Northern Territory, and then they have South Australian Certificate of Education. See, and then they have the Tasmanians, they have the Victorians, and then they have the Western Australia Certificate of Education. Each state or each territory, they offer their own certificate. Now that is what I say Australia is a bit tricky, but overall all these certificates are interchangeable or inter-acceptable. Now this is also acceptable by University of Oxford. Okay, now this is it for today's topic. Now if you have any questions, just leave me a message so that I can reply to you as soon as I can. Alright, until next time, bye. That is International School of Kuala Lumpur, ISKL, and then we can see Saiful International School. When we move the screen toward the city center, that is the Eaton House International School. Now over there is Taylor International School. Today is April 25th, a very beautiful Sunday morning.